I never in my wildest dreams imagined myself looking through this sub, let alone contributing to it. I am just going to unload here to put this into history for my own good, and to perhaps help others along the way. It's a very similar story to others that I have read, but maybe there's some uniqueness to my experience thus far. I'm going to lay it out in chunks of events that grew my suspicion and later confirmation. This is brand new, so forgive the lengthy details. I put it all in here to document it for myself, and to reveal the true situation through my words. The final confrontation was last night, and I did not sleep a wink. Disclaimer: this is the worst, most embarrassing thing I've ever experienced. So I've created a new ID to post it. My wife, 36F, and I, 34M, have our 7th wedding anniversary coming up in less than 2 weeks. We've been together for more than 10 years, with no history of fighting. Pure bliss for me, laughs, family trips, growing businesses, yard projects, 2 beautiful young boys. It's been a blast. Here's the rundown. 1. The new job, boss, and the first weird night. This past year, my wife interviewed at a highly respected long-term care facility and was subsequently offered a high-up position by the guy who is now her boss. Since taking the job, she's talked very highly of this guy and his focus on family, success, and of course, how he believes in her ability to succeed at the company. Fast forward a few months, and there I sit, incredibly suspicious of some recent out-of-character actions. While this new role brings in some out-of-office activities, golf, fundraisers, etc., some of the stuff just stunk of something. I wasn't suspecting anything in particular, but over time, my intuition was screaming that something is wrong with someone or something. There was a night in early June where I found myself pacing the house in terror that something happened to my wife while out for drinks and dinner with the coworkers, after a golf tournament or something. At one point, she said she would be home in an hour. That came, and then another hour, and then a third hour. Her and I share our locations on our iPhones. Why? Because we have 2 little boys and figured it can't hurt to know each other's whereabouts. And her location was stuck in the same place, side of a busy road, nowhere near where she said she was going. Her phone kept going to voicemail. I thought she may have been in an accident. Finally, on the brink of calling police, she calls me to say she is on her way home. I tell her how terrified I was, and she explained that her phone died and she was in a coworker's car without a charger. Weird. That has never happened before. She's never ever been out late and not checked in with me. I attributed it to the brand new job, new coworkers, and her efforts to fit into the social scene with this new role of hers. Her story did add up for the most part. The road where her last location before the dead phone's location was shared wound up being on the way to a restaurant they were supposedly at. Still, this disconnected behavior had never happened before. It was just so out of place. Fast forward a couple months. My wife has become obsessed with her workouts, her weight, wanting a bigger chest. Her morning routine in the bathroom has become longer and longer. Keep in mind, my wife is far more fit than your average gym goer. She has nothing to worry about. She's absolutely gorgeous. 2. Meeting him and the obscure, tucked-away parking lot. A day came in early August where she invited her boss and some coworkers over to my house for some daytime drinks after a race they all ran together. I thought to myself, I finally get to meet this amazing boss that I hear so much about. They arrived, and that's when everything hit me. This guy, while much older than me, is handsome for his age, almost 60, but somehow incredibly awkward. Not once did he look me in the eye, and when I shook his hand, it was soaked with sweat. That's when my intuition screamed again, steering my suspicions toward him. He didn't stay long, and he didn't interact with my wife. He barely said a word to anyone, other than to ask me what high school I went to, while looking another direction. He just basically drank a beer and left. Following that, the last coworker to stay winds up inviting his GF and her daughter over. After a bunch of drinks, my wife was very convincing to invite them over for an impromptu dinner party. That all happened, and this guy and his GF left around 8 p.m. Now is the point where everything starts getting narrowed. In the days leading up to this morning race with her coworkers, my wife had been talking about getting drinks with her friend later that night to celebrate a birthday. She was back and forth with wanting to go. And then when her coworker left for the day, she decided that she was in fact going to go. She went upstairs, dolled herself up, and came down looking awesome. She kissed me goodbye and left for a bar on the east side of town. Her entire demeanor was incredibly awkward, and I had to ask, "Are you okay to drive?" She said, "Yes. I really only had 2 throughout the day. I am not going to be out too late." I don't remember for sure, but I think she may have even asked me to wait up for her. I put on a movie or something and chilled out. Less than an hour went by, and I thought it was weird that she never texted me to let me know she got there. So I checked her location. It showed her car parked in a weird place, an obscure parking lot next to a small park on the east side. She never mentioned that park, and I was so thrown off by it. I texted her, "Are you okay?" She replied within minutes, "Yep, just parking. I'll let you know when I'm heading home." It seemed fine, but something still didn't feel right. The location she parked at was about 2 blocks away from the bar she said she was going to. The whole thing bugged me, but I let it go. I stayed up until about midnight, and when she finally came home, she was cheerful and talkative. But I noticed she wasn't wearing the necklace I had seen her leave with earlier. I asked about it, and she said she had taken it off because it was irritating her neck. Again, it felt odd, but I had no reason to press further at the time. That night, I had a hard time falling asleep. Fast forward a few weeks, and her behavior began shifting even more. She started being secretive with her phone, always keeping it face down and taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. She also started staying late at work more often, always with some excuse about deadlines or last-minute meetings. My gut feeling was growing stronger, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I tried to convince myself that I was overthinking. One Friday evening, she came home later than usual and seemed unusually distant. When I asked how her day was, she gave me a generic answer and went straight to take a shower, something she never usually did immediately after coming home. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, so I decided to check her phone while she was sleeping. Unfortunately, it was locked, and she had changed the passcode without telling me. I confronted her the next morning about changing the passcode, and she got defensive, saying it was for privacy and that I was overstepping. This was completely out of character for her, as we had always shared everything before. This was the moment I knew I needed to dig deeper. I started paying closer attention to her patterns and keeping a mental note of the inconsistencies. It wasn't long before I found more red flags. One afternoon, while she was in the shower, I noticed her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. I knew it wasn't the most ethical thing to do, but I couldn't resist checking her email. What I found was vague but suspicious. There were several emails exchanged with her boss, mostly work-related, but the tone felt overly friendly. There was even one email where he thanked her for last night and mentioned how he enjoyed our talk. This sent me spiraling. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself it could just be innocent. But deep down, I knew there was more to the story. Over the next few weeks, I kept observing and gathering small pieces of information. Finally, I decided to take a more direct approach. I told her I felt like we had been disconnected lately and suggested we spend more quality time together. Her response was lukewarm, and she seemed uninterested. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to follow her one evening when she said she had a late meeting at work. I waited outside her office building, and sure enough, about an hour later, I saw her leave. But instead of heading to her car, she got into a different one, a black sedan that I recognized from her boss's earlier visit to our house. My heart sank as I watched them drive away together. I didn't know where they were going, but I knew this confirmed my worst fears. I followed them to a restaurant on the other side of town. They were seated in a dimly lit corner booth, and their body language was intimate, leaning in close, laughing, and sharing what looked like a bottle of wine. I felt sick to my stomach, but didn't confront them at that moment. I went back to my car and sat there, trying to process everything. When she came home that night, I pretended everything was fine, but I knew I needed to confront her soon. Last night, I finally did. I told her everything I had observed, from her strange behavior to following her to the restaurant. At first, she denied it, but when I mentioned the details, she broke down and admitted that she had developed feelings for her boss. She claimed nothing physical had happened yet, but they had been spending a lot of time together outside of work and had been texting each other constantly. She apologized profusely and said she wanted to work on our marriage. I'm still processing everything and trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wants to believe her and try to rebuild what we had, but another part of me feels betrayed beyond repair. This has been the most difficult experience of my life, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Hey, did you like the story? You can see the rest visiting this Reddit page. Did you like the video? Please like and subscribe for more content just like this one. Bye.